"We're charting a bold new path," Darren announced, his voice sharp and measured as it echoed through the sleek glass walls of the downtown San Diego conference room. 50 pairs of eyes shifted between his face on the oversized video screen and mine, seated calmly at the head of the table. Effective immediately, Rachel Simmons will be stepping down from her position as Executive Vice President of Sales, he said, without a blink. I remained motionless, hands folded neatly over the worn leather folder I'd brought to every major pitch and boardroom meeting for the past 14 years. Around me, my team sat frozen, shocked expressions, murmured gasps, a few gaping mouths. Taking her place, Darren continued, with the smooth detachment of a man who never had to deal with the mess his decisions created, will be Krista Monroe, who will assume a newly designed strategic leadership role in sales operations. The camera shifted slightly, revealing Krista seated beside him, a 20-something with platinum hair, a professional-grade smile, and the unmistakable air of someone more accustomed to influencer events than budget reviews. She waved lightly to the camera, already soaking in the attention. The temperature in the room dropped. Krista, the woman who'd been clinging to Darren's arm at every company event these past few weeks. Former beauty vlogger turned self-proclaimed digital visionary. 0B2B experience. And now, somehow, my replacement. My name is Rachel Simmons. I'm 58 years old, and I built the entire sales division at Novareach Technologies from the ground up. When I joined, the company was a scrappy little startup with promising software and no clear go-to-market strategy. I created the scripts. I trained the reps. I cold-called CEOs at midnight and followed up at 6 a.m. I missed birthdays, anniversaries, and vacations chasing leads and closing deals. While my peers were downsizing or easing into early retirement, I was scaling revenue by double digits. By year 7, we were competing with Fortune 500s. By year 12, our client portfolio included 5 global enterprises and a dozen mid-sized powerhouses. I wasn't just part of the company's growth, I was the growth. I looked across the table at my team. The people I'd hired, mentored, and promoted. Some of them were kids straight out of school when they joined. Now they led departments. Their eyes said everything. This doesn't make sense. Why her? Why now? Rachel has played an important role in establishing our sales foundation, Darren said, his tone clipped, like I was being given a military send-off. And we're grateful for her years of dedication. Grateful. Like I was being handed a plaque and a fruit basket. No one said the obvious. That Darren, age 39, had never built anything from scratch. That his last 2 companies were acquired before they made it past Series C funding. That every bold new direction he pushed came with a trail of discarded veterans and a crew of yes people from his LinkedIn history. I had watched the shift happen. The CTO was the first to go, replaced by someone who'd worked with Darren at a failed wellness app. Then the CFO. The same story. Each announcement sugar-coated with innovation and alignment. I had survived longer than most by doing what I always did, delivering results. Quarter after quarter, record-breaking growth. I thought numbers would protect me. But I should have known better. I didn't protest. I didn't cry or argue. I stood, calmly collected the documents I'd prepared for the meeting, and smiled. I wish you all the best, I said clearly, meeting every eye around the room. The Q2 pipeline is strong. All key client contacts are updated. Everything is where it should be. Krista was already chattering about disrupting traditional sales funnels when I stepped out. I closed the door softly behind me. They had no idea what they'd just done. And they wouldn't see what was coming next. In Darren's world, loyalty beat performance and personal connections always outpaced professional competence. As I packed up the last 14 years of my career into dull brown boxes, the hum of my office faded into the background. 12 years of blood, sweat, and weekends sacrificed, all now reduced to a few trinkets and plaques. I folded a faded photo of the original sales team into a file folder. We'd all been so young, so hungry. Valerie lingered in the doorway, her eyes glassy and red. "This is insane," she said, her voice low but heavy with frustration. "Everyone knows it." I carefully wrapped a crystal award, Top regional sales performance, North America, in layers of old press clippings. It's just business, I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Valerie scoffed, stepping further into the room. It's completely personal. She's his girlfriend, Rachel. She was doing sponsored yoga posts on Instagram 8 weeks ago. Now she's leading a $2 million sales department. I placed the wrapped award into the box and finally looked up. Valerie had been my right hand for the past 8 years. She knew the inner workings of this company like I did, the clients, the nuances, the people behind the numbers. What will you do now? She asked softly. Take a breath, I said, taping the box shut with one clean line. Then figure out my next move. Valerie straightened her posture, wiping beneath her eyes. I already told HR I'm giving my 2 weeks. I'm not sticking around for this clown parade. I smiled. Not out of satisfaction, but appreciation. Loyalty ran both ways in my world. Do me a favor before you go, I said, handing her a folder. Make sure Patterson Healthcare and National Building Supply get their account info transferred correctly. Both are up for renewal in the next month. Those 2 clients alone represented over $5 million in annual revenue. Valerie's brow lifted slightly. Her eyes flicked down to the folder, then back to me. A beat passed before understanding lit her face. I'll make sure everything is accurately transferred, she said, the emphasis deliberate. That earned my first real smile since the announcement. That's all I ask. What Darren didn't understand, what Krista couldn't possibly grasp, was that my clients weren't loyal to a logo. They were loyal to me. Over the years, I'd cultivated relationships through late-night calls, handwritten notes, impromptu lunches, and a level of responsiveness no CRM system could replicate. When things went wrong, they didn't call a help desk, they called Rachel. 3 weeks later, I was on the back deck of my home in North San Diego County, sipping coffee and listening to the birds argue in the lemon tree. The peace was new and not entirely unwelcome. My phone buzzed across the table. Harold Barnes, Patterson Healthcare. I answered. Harold? Rachel. His voice boomed with familiarity and urgency. I've been trying to reach you through your company email. They told me you're no longer with Novareach. That's correct, I said evenly. I recently left the company. You left? You built the place. He sounded genuinely stunned. New leadership. New direction, I said. There was a pause. Well, that explains a lot. We had a video call yesterday with some new gal, Krista something. It was a train wreck. She called us Patterson Health Systems. Couldn't even walk us through our own implementation schedule. I winced. Patterson had always been particular about brand identity. They once paused an entire rollout because a marketing packet had the wrong font. Our contract's up for renewal next month, Harold continued, his voice firming. We were ready to sign for another 2 years, but now, I'm not sure. I sipped my coffee. I understand, Harold. You need a partner who knows your business and anticipates your needs. We need you, Rachel. You saved us during last year's Medicare audit. Your tech team was on that system crash in 20 minutes. He was quiet for a second. Then, wherever you're headed next, give me a call. If you're building something, Patterson wants in. I smiled, this time not out of politeness. This time, it felt like the beginning of something new. Sunday, I said, smiling into the phone. I remember. So what are you doing now? Harold asked. Taking some time off? I hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. Actually, I've been considering a few opportunities. One in particular has been persistent. Meridian Technologies. There was a pause. Meridian was Novareach's biggest up-and-coming competitor, a company with a similar product suite but a sharper, more modern approach. They'd been courting me on and off for years, sending polite inquiries and subtle check-ins, especially after each quarterly sales report I crushed. Meridian, huh? Harold finally said. They've pitched to us before. Solid platform, but we went with Novareach because of you. I kept my voice neutral. I understand. Another pause. If you were to go there, he continued, would you be overseeing the Patterson account? I imagine that would be part of the discussion, I said carefully. Interesting, he muttered. Our IT director's been nudging us to reevaluate the platform anyway. Maybe we hold off on that renewal, see how things shake out. We ended the call with the kind of mutual understanding that didn't need to be spoken aloud. After hanging up, I stared at my phone, letting the idea sit for a beat. Then, I scrolled through my contacts to a number I'd saved but never used. The line rang twice. "Hello? This is Rachel Simmons," I said clearly. "I believe your CEO Gregory Wilson expressed interest in meeting with me. I'd like to schedule that conversation." The dam had cracked. Darren had no idea what was coming. The following Thursday, I stepped into the downtown San Diego headquarters of Meridian Technologies. The contrast to my early days at Novareach couldn't have been sharper. Gone were the dim warehouse halls and sputtering AC vents. Meridian's offices spanned 3 gleaming floors of glass, stone, and soft lighting. As the elevator hummed up to the executive suite, I couldn't help but reflect on how far I'd come and how quickly things could shift. Gregory Wilson, Meridian's CEO, was waiting to greet me himself. That alone told me everything I needed to know. In his early 60s, Gregory carried himself with the quiet assurance of someone who had built his success, not bought it. "Rachel," he said, extending a hand with genuine warmth. "I can't tell you how pleased I am to finally have you here." "Timing is everything," I replied with a measured smile. His office looked out over the bay, sunlight pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows. Framed family photos lined his desk, real, candid images. Not the influencer collabs or personal brand decor Darren had started displaying in his office before I left. "I'll be direct," Gregory said as we sat down. "We'd like you to lead our enterprise sales division. You created something extraordinary at Novareach, and we've been following your work closely." "And what would the role entail?" I asked, though I already had a strong suspicion. "Executive Vice President of Sales and Client Relations," he said. "Full autonomy to build your team. Equity in the company." And he leaned in slightly, "The freedom to bring in the clients you believe would thrive on our platform." There it was, the real offer. Not just a position, but a platform to bring my network with me. "That's a compelling proposition," I said. "We're prepared to be competitive on compensation as well," Gregory added, sliding a folder across the desk. I opened it. My pulse didn't change, but it took every bit of my training not to raise an eyebrow. The number was well above what I ever earned at Novareach, a place that had routinely told me I was at the top of the band. "I'll need to review this in detail," I said, closing the folder. "Of course," Gregory nodded. "But I should mention, we're making strategic moves in healthcare and construction. I believe those were your strongholds." "Patterson Healthcare. National Building Supply," I replied, meeting his gaze. Together, they were worth over $5 million in annual revenue. And this time, I wouldn't be bringing them to Novareach. "In annual revenue for Novareach. I had some success there," I said modestly. Gregory smiled, clearly unfazed by the understatement. Our conversation continued for another hour, and for the first time in years, I felt engaged. Meridian's vision was grounded, not in buzzwords, vague metaphors, or inflated projections, but in substance. They were focused on product refinement, client outcomes, and building long-term partnerships. Not just landing accounts, but keeping them. As we wrapped up, Gregory walked with me to the elevator. "One last thing," he said, his tone casual but purposeful. "We've heard that some talent might be becoming available at Novareach. People who worked closely with you." I raised an eyebrow. "The rumor mill moves fast." "It always does," he agreed with a small chuckle. "If you were to join us, would you be interested in rebuilding your team? Valerie Thomas from Enterprise Accounts? Daria in Client Success? My people. The women who'd helped me build something extraordinary over the years. People who didn't just execute, they understood." "I might have a few recommendations," I replied carefully. The elevator doors opened, and Gregory shook my hand. "We'll be in touch soon, Rachel. I have a good feeling about this." As I rode down to the lobby, my phone buzzed. A message from Valerie. "National Building Supply just called. They're reconsidering next cycle's contract. Jenna tried to handle it. Total disaster." I tucked my phone away, already assembling the possibilities in my mind. Darren had set a cascade in motion, one that couldn't be stopped, not with regret, not with replacements. Within a week, my contract with Meridian was signed. This feels like déjà vu, Valerie said a few days later, arranging framed family photos on her new desk, a real desk, in a real office. Not the open-plan noise box she'd been crammed into at Novareach. Except with better lighting and a coffee machine that works every day. I leaned against her doorframe and smirked. How does it feel to be director of client operations? She beamed. Like I should have followed you years ago. In the 6 weeks since I joined Meridian, everything moved with a kind of purposeful precision that reminded me of my early years building out the Novareach sales engine. Gregory had made good on every promise, autonomy, respect, and resources. Daria had come aboard 2 weeks after Valerie, stepping into a senior VP role that reflected her experience and ability, something she'd never been offered at Novareach. Both had received compensation packages that finally matched the value they brought. My phone rang. It was Harold from Patterson Healthcare. "Rachel, we've made our decision," he said, cutting straight to it. "We're not renewing with Novareach." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly. "Don't be." He chuckled. "Their service has gone downhill." "This new rep they assigned us?" She seemed more interested in taking selfies in our lobby than understanding our compliance requirements. I bit back a sigh. That tracked. "We want to talk to Meridian about transitioning. The Novareach renewal deadline's next week. We need a new contract in place." "I'd be happy to connect you with our team." "No," Harold said firmly. "We want you. You know our systems, our challenges. We trust you." After we hung up, I typed a quick message to Gregory. "Patterson Healthcare, $5M annually, is moving to Meridian." His reply was immediate. "This is why we hired you." And that was just the beginning. Over the next month, the same pattern repeated. National Building Supply, Western Financial Group, Hartman Manufacturing. One by one, the accounts I had spent over a decade cultivating reached out. Some sent polite inquiries. Others were more blunt. The CEO of Western Financial didn't mince words. "Your replacement couldn't sell water to a man on fire." The shift was undeniable. Darren and Krista hadn't just underestimated me, they had underestimated what I'd built. And now it was all coming with me. In annual revenue for Novareach. "I had some success there," I said modestly. Gregory smiled, clearly unfazed by the understatement. Our conversation continued for another hour, and for the first time in years, I felt engaged. Meridian's vision was grounded, not in buzzwords, vague metaphors, or inflated projections, but in substance. They were focused on product refinement, client outcomes, and building long-term partnerships. Not just landing accounts, but keeping them. As we wrapped up, Gregory walked with me to the elevator. "One last thing," he said, his tone casual but purposeful. "We've heard that some talent might be becoming available at Novareach. People who worked closely with you." I raised an eyebrow. "The rumor mill moves fast." "It always does," he agreed with a small chuckle. "If you were to join us, would you be interested in rebuilding your team? Valerie Thomas from Enterprise Accounts? Daria in Client Success? My people. The women who'd helped me build something extraordinary over the years. People who didn't just execute, they understood." "I might have a few recommendations," I replied carefully. The elevator doors opened, and Gregory shook my hand. "We'll be in touch soon, Rachel. I have a good feeling about this." As I rode down to the lobby, my phone buzzed. A message from Valerie. "National Building Supply just called. They're reconsidering next cycle's contract. Jenna tried to handle it. Total disaster." I tucked my phone away, already assembling the possibilities in my mind. Darren had set a cascade in motion, one that couldn't be stopped, not with regret, not with replacements. Within a week, my contract with Meridian was signed. "This feels like déjà vu," Valerie said a few days later, arranging framed family photos on her new desk, a real desk, in a real office. Not the open-plan noise box she'd been crammed into at Novareach. Except with better lighting and a coffee machine that works every day. I leaned against her doorframe and smirked. "How does it feel to be director of client operations?" She beamed. "Like I should have followed you years ago." In the 6 weeks since I joined Meridian, Everything moved with a kind of purposeful precision that reminded me of my early years building out the Novareach sales engine. Gregory had made good on every promise: autonomy, respect, and resources. Daria had come aboard 2 weeks after Valerie, stepping into a senior VP role that reflected her experience and ability, something she'd never been offered at Novareach. Both had received compensation packages that finally matched the value they brought. My phone rang. It was Harold from Patterson Healthcare. "Rachel, we've made our decision," he said, cutting straight to it. "We're not renewing with Novareach." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said evenly. "Don't be." He chuckled. "Their service has gone downhill." "This new rep they assigned us?" She seemed more interested in taking selfies in our lobby than understanding our compliance requirements. I bit back a sigh. That tracked. "We want to talk to Meridian about transitioning. The Novareach renewal deadline's next week. We need a new contract in place." "I'd be happy to connect you with our team." "No," Harold said firmly. "We want you. You know our systems, our challenges. We trust you." After we hung up, I typed a quick message to Gregory. "Patterson Healthcare, $5M annually, is moving to Meridian." His reply was immediate. "This is why we hired you." And that was just the beginning. Over the next month, the same pattern repeated. National Building Supply, Western Financial Group, Hartman Manufacturing. One by one, the accounts I had spent over a decade cultivating reached out. Some sent polite inquiries. Others were more blunt. The CEO of Western Financial didn't mince words. "Your replacement couldn't sell water to a man on fire." The shift was undeniable. Darren and Krista hadn't just underestimated me, they had underestimated what I'd built. And now it was all coming with me. Showed up to our quarterly review wearing a crop top and taking notes on her phone, the email from Thomas read. When our CFO asked about data security protocols, she said she'd circle back, never did. By the end of that quarter, over $15 million in client contracts had either moved to Meridian or formally announced they wouldn't be renewing with Novareach. It wasn't about me, at least, not just about me. It was about a fundamental misunderstanding Darren had about what our clients actually valued. They didn't care about slick keynote decks or curated Instagram feeds. They wanted competence, consistency, and someone they could call at 9 p.m. on a holiday weekend and know would answer. They wanted real solutions, not content strategy. One evening, I was still at my desk going over the latest onboarding timeline for Western Financial when Gregory stopped by. A bottle of champagne and 2 glasses in hand. "I thought we should celebrate," he said, setting everything down. "Western Financial just signed. That puts us over $15 million in new business this quarter, just from your former Novareach clients." He poured the champagne with that same steady calm he always carried. But his eyes sparkled just a bit more than usual. "Have you heard what's happening over there?" he asked casually. I glanced up. "I try not to pay attention to gossip," I said diplomatically. Gregory gave a small smile. "Their stock is down 30%. Board's apparently meeting next week. Rumor is they're not thrilled with Darren's results. First earnings call after your departure was, let's just say, eventful." I accepted the glass he handed me. "Business is cyclical," I said. "Companies have ups and downs." "True," Gregory said. "But losing 60% of your quarterly revenue? That's not a cycle. That's a collapse." We clinked glasses. "To new beginnings," I said. The email came the following Tuesday. The subject line was dry and corporate. "Novareach Technologies announces executive changes." I opened it, curiosity winning out. Novareach Technologies today announced that Darren Keane will be stepping down as Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. The board has appointed Jerome Phillips, current COO, as interim CEO while a search for a permanent replacement is conducted. There was a carefully worded quote from the board chair about returning to core business principles and refocusing on client relationships. But the subtext was clear: Darren was out. I forwarded the message to Gregory with a single. His response came within minutes. "Sinking ship. Too little, too late." And he was right. The damage was done. In the 3 months since I joined Meridian, we hadn't just picked up contracts, we'd begun fully integrating them into our infrastructure. The transition costs were high, but the payoff would be long-term retention. Even if Novareach somehow found its footing again, these clients weren't coming back. My phone buzzed again. A text from Thomas. "Did you see Barkham? They're considering switching too." Before I could reply, another message appeared from an unfamiliar number. "Rachel, it's Darren. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long moment, surprised by his audacity. After a pause, I typed back. "I'm in meetings all day." His reply was immediate. "Please. It's important." Against my better judgment, I agreed to a short coffee meeting at a neutral spot, a quiet cafe halfway between our offices. He was already there when I arrived. And he looked different. The tailored image he always projected was gone. His once crisp shirt was wrinkled, and the circles under his eyes were darker than I remembered. "Thank you for coming," he said as I sat down. "What can I do for you, Darren?" I kept my tone professional, neither cold nor friendly. He let out a long breath, his confidence visibly fractured. "I made a mistake, Rachel. A massive, company-killing mistake. Business decisions sometimes have unintended consequences," I said neutrally. He shook his head slowly. "This wasn't business. It was ego. I thought I could replace experience with style. And now..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "It was ego," Darren admitted, rubbing his temples with both hands. "Jenna convinced me the sales team needed younger energy, fresh thinking, modern strategies. She said clients wanted to work with people who understood digital transformation." I raised an eyebrow but didn't say a word. "She told me what I wanted to hear," he continued. "That experience was outdated. That we needed flash. And I bought it. I waited. She was fired 2 weeks ago," he added quietly. "Right after Patterson pulled out. The board demanded answers, and she couldn't give them. She had no idea how to handle relationships at that level. None. And now they've fired you, too," I said. He winced. "Technically, I resigned. But yes." Then he leaned forward, his voice dropping into a low, urgent whisper. "Rachel, I want to make you an offer. Come back to Novareach. Name your price. Your title. The board will sign off on anything. Just help us get those clients back." For a moment, I just stared at him. The audacity was almost impressive. "Darren," I said finally, "those clients aren't coming back. They've signed multi-year contracts with Meridian. Their data's migrated. Their teams are trained on our systems. They've moved on. But you could convince them." "I wouldn't even try," I said firmly, cutting him off. "They're happy. We've delivered everything Novareach promised, but failed to execute." He slumped back into the cafe chair, the defeat written all over his face. "The company's falling apart," he said quietly. "The board's talking about selling off assets. Shutting down entire divisions." I felt a flicker of something, maybe pity. Not for Darren. For the people still at Novareach. The ones who had stayed through all the change. The ones who hadn't been part of his mistakes, but would now pay the price. But business, as I'd learned the hard way, wasn't personal. "I wish you the best," I said, standing. "But my future is with Meridian." As I walked out, my phone buzzed. An email from Gregory. Subject: Western Financial Update. Message: They just doubled their contract size. Board wants to fast-track your promotion to Chief Revenue Officer. Let's talk tomorrow. I smiled. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something better and thriving. 6 months after I joined Meridian, I stood at the podium during our all-hands company meeting. The quarterly results were projected behind me, each number more staggering than the last. Revenue up 64% year-over-year. 17 new enterprise clients. 12 former Novareach accounts. Client retention, 98%. Stock price up 42% since last quarter. These aren't just metrics, I told the team. They're proof of something deeper. That business is built on relationships, on expertise, on trust, not trends or personalities. From the stage, I looked out over our rapidly growing staff. In the front row, I saw Valerie Thomas, Daria, and the other core team members who had followed me from Novareach. Just behind them were the new hires, smart, eager, coachable, ready to learn and uphold the standards we'd established. And today, I continued. I'm proud to share that Meridian Technologies has been named the fastest-growing enterprise software company in the Western U.S. by Industry Standard magazine. Applause erupted. It filled the room. This honor belongs to all of you, I added. Thank you for believing in this vision. After the meeting, Gregory pulled me aside. He was carrying a folded newspaper under his arm. Have you seen this? He asked, handing it to me. The headline on the business section read, Novorich acquired in fire sale, stock down 78% from peak. The article detailed how a larger competitor had picked up what was left of the company, absorbing the tech, gutting the teams, consolidating operations at their own HQ. The San Diego office would be shuttered by the end of the quarter. They're closing the entire West Coast division, Gregory said, merging everything into the main office. I handed the paper back. Unfortunate. Especially for the employees. Gregory nodded, then smiled. Not all of them. We've already received over 40 applications from former Novorich staff. And counting. Former Novorich staff in the past week alone, Gregory said as he stepped into my office. Seems word is getting around about our culture, our leadership. I nodded, thinking of the people I'd left behind. The ones who had helped build Novorich alongside me, talented, dedicated professionals who hadn't been in a position to leave when I did. Tell HR to prioritize those applications, I said. There are some incredible people over there. They deserve better. The annual Enterprise Technology Conference in Charlotte had always been a flagship event in our industry. Companies rolled out their latest innovations. Executives circled the floor making deals. Partnerships were forged over coffee and contracts signed over cocktails. This year, Meridian Technologies had the largest booth on the floor, our new status as a market leader on full display. Our sleek setup drew a steady stream of interested attendees, from startup founders to global procurement leads. I was mid-conversation with a potential healthcare client when a familiar figure across the exhibition hall caught my eye. Darren Keene. He wasn't representing a company. His name badge said only, independent consultant. We locked eyes for a brief second. His expression flickered, recognition, discomfort, and then he turned quickly, disappearing into the crowd. Later that evening, I attended the conference dinner, held in a chandelier-lit ballroom packed with executives and industry insiders. I was just settling into my seat when I realized who was across the table, Jerome Phillips, the former COO of Novorich. He'd stepped in briefly as interim CEO during their collapse, just before the acquisition. Rachel Simmons, he said warmly, offering his hand. I have to say, your departure created quite the cascade. Business evolution, I replied with a polite smile. Companies adapt. Or they don't. Jerome chuckled. That's one way to phrase it. Another might be, Darren Keene made the costliest mistake in the company's history when he replaced you with his girlfriend. I took a measured sip of water and said nothing. He leaned in slightly, his tone more personal now. Post-acquisition? Brutal. The acquiring company gutted the place. Most of the exec team's gone. They kept a skeleton dev staff. Everything else wiped. And Darren? I asked evenly. Jerome shook his head. Reputation's shot. He's been quietly trying to land another CEO role, but word gets around. No board wants the guy who tanked Novorich in one quarter. I nodded slightly, but didn't offer sympathy. I'd once given Darren the benefit of the doubt. He'd used it up the moment he handed my legacy to someone with an Instagram filter and no credentials. And Jenna? I asked, knowing full well the answer. Jerome smirked. Back to lifestyle posts. Yoga poses, turmeric lattes, the usual. Her brief stint in corporate leadership mysteriously didn't make the cut for her profile. I allowed myself a quiet laugh, not bitter, just reflective. As the dinner wrapped up, Jerome passed me his card. If you ever have openings at Meridian, he said, I'd love to talk. Some of us learned the hard way what happens when you bet against the wrong person. I took the card and slid it into my jacket. I'll keep that in mind. After he left, I glanced around the ballroom. Dozens of industry leaders, some of whom had once questioned my promotion at Novorich, were now circling Meridian, eager for partnerships, trying to secure meetings. My greatest success hadn't come from ascending the traditional corporate ladder. It had come the moment I was pushed off it. And I'd landed exactly where I was meant to be, standing on my own platform, leading on my own terms, and showing what was possible when talent met opportunity without ego standing in the way. I didn't expect to rebuild my career at 58. I didn't plan to start over, lead a new team, or face betrayal from the very company I helped grow. But here I am, not just standing, but thriving. And if my story resonates with you, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment. Share your thoughts. Tell me, have you ever been underestimated? Overlooked? Pushed aside for someone with less experience and more connections? Your support means more than you know. This isn't just my story, it's ours. A story for every person who's been told they were past their prime, or not a fit for the new direction. Drop a comment below. What would you say to someone who thought they could replace your value with a hashtag and a PowerPoint? And here's the part one want you to carry with you. You're never too old, too experienced, or too rooted in tradition to build something new. When a door closes, whether by betrayal, bias, or blind ego, build your own damn building. Bring your people. Bring your principles. Let your results speak louder than anyone's assumptions. Don't waste energy chasing validation from those who chose to ignore your worth. Instead, invest that energy into creating a life, a business, or a vision that proves exactly what they lost. Because success isn't about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. I'm not here because I was given another chance. I'm here because I took one. And so can you. If this story inspired you, share it. Comment. Connect. And more than anything, don't let anyone define your value but you. Let's keep going together.